Ethereum is going to $30,000 per ETH, and possibly much, much higher. That's not my prediction. That's the prediction from Tom Lee, a Wall Street veteran, Fundstrat founder, and the man who said Bitcoin was going to 100x back in 2017 when it was just $1,000. But don't take it from me, take it from the man himself.
MicroStrategy has written the playbook for what a Bitcoin treasury is, and now he's so big he has a sovereign put, right? He has 600,000 Bitcoin. Any nation that wants to get 1 million Bitcoin probably thinks it's cheaper to buy MicroStrategy. The Ethereum treasury model, which is we're trying to be the MicroStrategy of Ethereum, works similarly, but we're at the earliest stages, because if this is the 2017 moment for Ethereum at 3,700, it could make a move to 30,000 or more.
Tom Lee believes Ethereum is having its own Bitcoin 2017 moment, the kind of setup where in just months, prices can go vertical and deliver life-changing gains. And he's not just saying it, he's backing it up with his money, and he's going all in on Ethereum. In this video, we're going to break down why Ethereum is set to explode over the rest of 2025. And at the end, we'll cover how Ethereum could not only hit 30,000, but how it could potentially 100x from current prices, just like Bitcoin did after Tom Lee's call in 2017. First, Ethereum has already flipped the script. For over a year, the loudest voices in crypto were saying Ethereum was done. Too slow, too expensive, outclassed by faster chains. But here's the reality. Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin for the last few months, and not by a little. From its cycle low against Bitcoin in April, Ethereum has now doubled Bitcoin's gains. The ETH to BTC chart has bounced sharply off its lows, ending more than a year of downtrend. Zoom out to the entire top 100 coins, and Ethereum has been a top performer. It's pulling liquidity from weaker altcoins and holding the #1 spot in DeFi, stablecoins, and developer activity. When an asset leads in performance, liquidity, and fundamentals all at the same time, the market is rotating in its favor, and big investors are starting to take notice. Second, Ethereum's fundamentals are stronger than ever. Ethereum is dominating DeFi. Right now, it commands over half of all value locked in the space, more than double its closest competitor. It has stablecoin supremacy, and with US stablecoin legislation now live, Ethereum is positioned to capture the bulk of institutional on-chain payments. It has the most developers by far. Over 2,000 full-time developers build directly on Ethereum, more than twice the next largest chain. Layer 2 adoption is exploding, with Arbitrum, Base, Optimism, and others moving tens of billions in value, all secured by Ethereum, and institutional adoption is real. BlackRock, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Robinhood, eToro, all building directly on Ethereum or its Layer 2s. Ethereum and Bitcoin are the only cryptocurrencies directly backed by BlackRock. Would you bet against the largest asset manager in the world? Third, institutions are coming for Ethereum. We all saw what happened when Michael Saylor turned MicroStrategy into a Bitcoin vault in 2020. The stock exploded over 2,000% in 2 years, and the company made tens of billions in profit. Now, Tom Lee is running the Ethereum version of that playbook. As chairman of BitMine, he's shifted the company's balance sheet into billions worth of ETH, making it the largest corporate Ethereum holder in the world. He's not alone. Stanley Druckenmiller, one of the greatest macro investors alive, bought a significant stake in the last month. Cathie Wood of ARK Invest picked up millions of shares in mid-July. Bill Miller III, legendary value investor, announced a large position this week. These are disciplined billionaire investors with decades of winning calls now going all in on Ethereum. Tom Lee's view is simple. Ethereum is infrastructure, the settlement layer for the Internet of Value. In his models, it should already be worth $15,000 today. In the short term, he sees it at 10 to 15,000. If this truly is Ethereum's Bitcoin 2017 moment, he sees 30,000 and beyond. Fourth, how Ethereum could 100 times. This is where Tom Lee's track record matters. In 2017, when Bitcoin was around $1,000, he predicted it could 100 times. It sounded crazy, but by 2024, that call had been proven right. And now he's saying Ethereum is in the same spot Bitcoin was back then. Here's Tom in his own words explaining how Ethereum could 100x.
Do you think it could do a similar thing as Bitcoin did? Like, what's your kind of call for a price for Ether right now?
I actually think that
there's a bigger upside story to Ethereum because there's more skepticism to start with. Bitcoin wasn't necessarily something people shorted, they just didn't believe it. And so the upside case, like when we wrote about 100,000 in 2017, it seemed insane, but it didn't take that long from 2017 to now to get there. It was within our lifetimes that it was 100x. Ethereum, I think you're hitting it spot on, is just like Bitcoin in 2017. Wall Street is not professionally convinced Ethereum is even a surviving chain because there was some fair criticisms and it did move to proof of stake, and there might have been too much ETH out there for a bit of time, but it's being fixed. And there's still skepticism that Wall Street going onto ETH, they're even going to stake ETH or even use ETH. Everyone's kind of there are probably more people who think that it's a layer 2 story and nothing benefits the layer 1. And I think that that's what's going to be shattered. And when it does, it'll be a step function. So I think the upside case for ETH is actually higher than, let's say, Bitcoin did 100x. Could Ethereum do 100x? I mean, Joe Lubin sort of has that kind of upside in his mind, because Joe and I are in dialogue. I mean, we are really partners in trying to push ETH as a treasury, as a digital infrastructure. I think that could happen because there is probably a significant probability that Ethereum could flip Bitcoin as well in terms of network value. And then if you're, if someone thinks Bitcoin's at $1 million, then imagine what it means for Ethereum, because it is not just Wall Street financializing onto blockchain, but it's AI, but it's also part of the US focus on AI dominance, right? Ethereum plays a strategic role there. Now, if MicroStrategy had tripled the upside of Bitcoin, then that means, in theory, the Ethereum treasuries could triple whatever Ethereum could do. So, I don't think you're going to go wrong saying that the Ethereum treasuries are a good investment class. But if you're looking at what BitMine's doing, it's those other things I was saying distinguish it. And that's why, maybe we will be at the front end of that. But they should all do well because Ethereum itself is undervalued.
Tom believes that once Wall Street gets it, once skepticism breaks, Ethereum could see a step function repricing. A 100x move from here would take Ethereum into territory almost nobody is modeling, but nobody was modeling $100,000 Bitcoin when it was just 1,000 back in 2017. But Tom was. One of the most overlooked bullish factors for Ethereum right now is what's happening on the supply side. Since the merge back in 2022, when Ethereum transitioned from proof of work to proof of stake, new Ethereum issuance has essentially gone to zero. In fact, at times the network has even been deflationary, with more Ethereum burned in fees than created. That means there's actually less new Ethereum hitting the market than new Bitcoin hitting the market, a dynamic most investors still don't fully appreciate. And then there's staking. Over 35 million Ethereum is currently staked. Out of the total supply of 120.7 million Ethereum, that's roughly 29% of all Ethereum locked away and effectively removed from circulation. This number isn't static, it's been climbing steadily month after month. Every new validator that comes online reduces the liquid supply even further. Why does that matter? Because staked Ethereum is a strong signal of long-term conviction. Once ETH is staked, it can't be instantly sold on an exchange. It represents holders who are committed to the asset for years, not weeks. So when you combine near zero new issuance, a growing percentage of supply locked up in staking, and rising institutional demand through ETFs and corporate treasuries, you get the recipe for a textbook supply shock. And in crypto, when supply shocks meet demand spikes, prices don't just drift higher, they can gap up violently. Okay, so that's 5 reasons to be insanely bullish on Ethereum, but what does that realistically look like in terms of price scenarios? After watching every single Tom Lee interview and podcast on the subject, here are his 3 key scenarios. First off, Tom Lee's bull case. Ethereum smashes more than 5 times its previous all-time high, running all the way to $30,000. That's about a 700% gain, powered by ETF flows, corporate treasuries piling in, and big institutional staking. And over time, he even thinks Ethereum could flip Bitcoin and pull off a full 100 times from today's price. Next, his base case. We see Ethereum double its all-time high, landing somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 over the next year. That's still about a 280% gain, and Tom says it's achievable even with just moderate institutional inflows and steady growth in layer 2s. And finally, his Super Bowl 100 times case. Ethereum shocks the entire market with a repricing like Bitcoin's run from 2017 to 2024. Ethereum pulls off a 100 times move in a faster time period than anyone could imagine and eventually even flips Bitcoin. Now, why does all this matter for you? It's because the market's focus is still on Bitcoin, but if Ethereum keeps outperforming into the peak of this cycle, it could fundamentally change the dynamic of the crypto market. Layer 2 adoption, renewed institutional interest, and corporate treasury flows aren't hype. These are all sticky structural changes, and when that narrative shift clicks for Wall Street, it could trigger the kind of repricing Tom Lee is talking about. So, do you think Ethereum can hit 30,000 this cycle, or is Tom Lee right and we're looking at something much bigger, 100 times move like Bitcoin's 2017 run? If you've made it this far, you're clearly serious about crypto, so do yourself one quick favor. Hit the first link in the description and sign up for my free daily email, The Crypto Nutshell. It's written by me and a small team of on-chain analysts every single morning. It takes less than 5 minutes to read. We cover the biggest Bitcoin and crypto news, expert predictions, and the key on-chain insights you actually need to know. It's fast, it's free, and it'll keep you ahead of the curve. Click the link, enter your email, and you'll get the next issue straight to your inbox tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching. See you next time.